Uh, hey, hello everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Such a beautiful evening. Thank you all for coming out and tuning in with us tonight. We have a special treat tonight, that's very, very important for the listeners' ear. Here we have Miss Jackie. She's a powerhouse in reentry services over in Michigan. We also have my brother Carlos here, that served, literally served 24 years in prison after going to prison at the age of 15. And again, he was sentenced to 45 years. And some of the things that we're going to be talking on, as far as like having no excuses, in life, even despite of, the things that we've been through. Of course, we have similarities in the things we've been through, but we're just here to enlighten, like an audience, enlighten the listener's ear. For most of and I don't mean to get off the subject a little bit. I know that I have a released book, The Unspoken Truth, Life Story. I know the book signing is about 2 weeks. Actually, it's going to be March the 18th. So everybody write that down. Again, it's private location. You're going to be seeing it posted. Inbox me for any details, and thanks for the information for the book signing. So we're going to start it off. Like I said, we have some interesting stories here. And one thing I'm going to say, Carlos, I want you to go for it, man. Like I said, you welcome home. You said you're freshly home. I want you to share, just some of your story about you going to prison at the age of 15 and doing nearly 24 years straight, or 24 years straight exact. That's very powerful. But share to some of the audience, why you believe there should be no excuse, even after serving such time.
Okay, so yeah, and this is the reason why I want to have this conversation because at the age of 15, the first thought is my life is over. Like I have no chances of having a life that's worthy of living. But what I found and throughout my incarceration, I built the courage to stop people from trying to make excuses for me because what it did, it left me powerless. And at worst, it didn't offer me any kind of alternatives to what was available to me in my mind. And so one of the things that I realized early on when I was spent 8 years into my incarceration, I was 23 years old and I was in a solitary confinement cell. And I asked myself a question. And this is important because I stopped asking myself questions a long time ago. I was just completely led by my emotions. Whatever I felt, that's the only thing that was real to me. And that's the only thing that mattered. But, when I allowed myself that question, which was if the world is the problem, like I say it is, why am I the one that's always in trouble? And so there was a break there from my emotions because now I was able to elevate and think on a level that I never allowed myself to before. So it placed this burden of responsibility. Okay, now I think this way. What am I going to do about it? Whereas before is you made me feel this way. Now I have to do something to you about it. And so the whole burden was placed on me. And I started thinking about in terms of goals. I wanted to get a college degree because I knew that I wasn't that educated and there was very little that I understood about the world. So I asked myself, what does that consist of? And I said, I need a job. So I started at a very low paying job. And then when that became too easy to do, I got a job that was more challenging. And then when that became easy to do, I got another position within that job that was more challenging. And I kept getting paid more and more and more money. And I was able to pay my way into an associate's degree in psychology while I was in prison. Now, it took me 8 years, 8 years to pay
Wow.
for it because it was $52 payments every month. But I was
Wow.
able to complete that. Now, what's important is when we speak about networking, I want you to understand the kind of relationships that I was forming
Mm-hmm.
throughout that time when I decided to start changing my life. So we can start pre-incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
Young man, a child actually, honor roll student, violent home environment, abusive parents, toxic,
Wow.
and thriving in school.
Wow.
So I would go to school, I would feel adequate, competent, efficacious. I could take on the world. I would go home and be met with the opposite impression. I don't know
Wow.
what's expected of me. I can't make sense of anything. And so I had a decision to make early on, which was okay, can this person that I love so much survive in the kind of world that I'm living in?
Mm.
And I decided that he couldn't. So in my mind, as I think about it now, the process was, okay, if this is what the world wants from me, since this
Mhm.
person can't survive, then this is what I'm going to give them.
Wow.
And it's going
Wow.
to represent exactly what my parents were depicting, because now I wanted to show them that I could be better than them at what they were doing. What I
Wow.
didn't know in that generalizing that kind of mentality, the kind of networks that I would create would lead
Mhm.
to a criminal lifestyle.
Wow.
And so, whereas at the beginning in school, my networking was teachers who believed in my poetry, wanted to connect me with people who could actually harness that gift, um, you
Mm.
know, put me in special school with
Yeah.
5 other students that were picked because our grades were really top notch. And so this was my mind frame, but then it switched completely into, okay, who can get me better into the criminal life that I want to lead now? Because now these are my values. Now these are my attractions. And so I found those people at an early age, 13. Who sells drugs? Oh, it's him. I'm going to him. Who has guns? Oh, it's him. How can I get involved with him? So now
Mm.
a lot of people may say you're being too hard on yourself because you
Mm.
were 12, 13 years old. But I want to add something, and this serves as the example of what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
No excuses. There were children that were also my age, whose brains were also underdeveloped, who
Okay.
saw what I was doing while I was inviting them, and they told me, I don't want absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing. That's just crazy. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to continue to follow my education and plan for my future.
Yeah.
So I had this evidence. I just chose to disregard it because my values were placed elsewhere. And so I continued and continued and continued to get involved until, unfortunately and sadly and tragically, I
Mhm.
attempted to end the life of an innocent person. And
Wow.
so now, being in prison and taking responsibility, I started to form different networks. I started to pay attention to who was doing things differently,
Mhm.
because there's a norm in prison that's so monotonous
Mm.
that you can tell anybody who stands just a little bit apart
Mhm.
from it. And I met these two men. These two men were engaged in reading massive amounts of literature, comparing information, engaging in debates, conversations that try to find, like, as close to the truth as you can, develop character of integrity, convictions, and just wanted to live responsibly. And I was like, these are my guys. Like,
Mm.
these are the people I need now, because now I'm trying to live differently. And
Wow.
so
Wow.
the interesting about that is, when you're trying to change and you've already given people an impression of what you're about,
Mhm.
they want to hold on to that image. So now
Yeah.
I felt it was my responsibility to, as I'm changing my life and developing these new networks, to not
Gotcha.
only cut these networks off, but explain to them the reason why I couldn't keep them in my circle anymore.
Wow.
And
So
that
let me
was
ask
in,
you. So
go
let me
ahead.
ask you real quick, and I don't mean to cut you off, Carlos. So Miss Jackie, so if you were to to analyze, the things he just said, some of the questioning you saying you dealing with reentry,
Mhm.
what type of um impact do you see that he can have on other individuals that you work with on a daily basis?
Oh, without a doubt, Carlos, the first thing that I heard was just your accountability is just seeping from you. The best thing about restorative justice practices is when you're accountable, anything can happen. The human brain loves to protect ourselves. It wants to deny if it thinks we're getting in trouble or blame other people or minimize what we did. You took full responsibility. You didn't say, I did it because of this guy or I did it because I was so young. So you have the capacity to change so many worlds. I'm sure you already have, actually, both inside prison and even the 4 months since you've been out. And the idea that you're able to harness that and reflect back on it, even after all those years,
Mhm.
super powerful, super powerful.
Wow.
Thank
Yeah, and that's powerful because, like you said, because I can relate to, like you said, going to prison at an early age, 15 years old, and going into a world in which, like you said, it's supposed to be a world, that's where it's supposed to be rehabilitation. But a lot of times people don't understand that it all starts with the mindset. It starts here. If you don't have it here, you're going to return to your vomit every time. Just like a dog returns to his vomit, you're going to return to your vomit. But again, it took time to understand that, because how many of us was sucked into the peer pressures, the gangs, you know what I mean? Things that are around us, that we can't resist. But at the same time, again, it's up to you to want to make that transition in your life. And like I said, that's why when we make the emphasis on no excuses, there's really no excuse. You know what I mean? Because you have people that have been living for years out here, years upon years. And some may not have made a big impact because, again, it's not because, they were lazy. I mean, some people have lazy work ethics, but at the same time, nobody never taught somebody, how to get to the next level. Hey, how do you level up? How do you do certain things? Because I never had it growing up, myself. But again, we were still kids at the same time. But just imagine how crucial it can be after losing so much time of your life. It's not saying you got to play catch up, but at the same time, it's more of a like, hey, I got to get back a lot of lost time. So just think about it. Me and you, Carlos, okay, we was in the same predicament. We never went on a senior prom. We never went on a South hop.
Never went to high school.
Never went to high
Fifth grade over.
You see what I'm saying? We never filled out a college application. As far as on the streets, we never did that. You know what I mean? So we never experienced our 20s. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that we don't have regret, for the senseless acts that we may have done. Yes, we were adolescents and we did foolish things. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what did we learn from that? What did we, how can we turn the negative into a positive? That's a key factor that should resonate, around the world, to a lot. We all make mistakes. We all fall short, but only a fool will stay down. No, we get back up again, and we move forward. But it's the ones who don't learn from the mistakes that, that constantly make them. How many people you seen come in and out, in and out, in and out? Then there's lifers and people that are on death row that are like that. Y'all just keep coming in here. It's like a smack in our face. Yeah. Because here it is. Some of them never even squeeze the trigger, pull the trigger or anything, but they're inside for a criminal conspiracy because they were associated with the crime. They got the same charges, and here they are wishing they had a second chance. But
and throughout my change process, I'm gonna give you some examples of how much I accomplished, and then I'm gonna give you one of the most dangerous thoughts or ideas that I find people have in prison and life in general that limits them. And so, 5th grade education, right? Done. Went to prison, 15 years old, got my GED at 18, got an associate's degree in psychology, then got into Yale University, then got into the University of New Haven, then got into Southern New Hampshire University, then got on the radio and started actually doing interviews on the radio. As a result of those interviews, Breakthrough Films, hired by HBO, reached out to me and did a documentary on my life.
Wow.
I became a member of the Campaign for the Fair Sentencing of Youth, right? I became a client of a mirror program here in Bridgeport before I got out. I became a client of the Ultimate Living program while I was in prison. And throughout that whole entire time, the very men who now mind you, because I'm as a child growing up in a system that's telling me I have to respect authority, I have to respect my elders, and I have to do what everybody else is doing around me. I mean, I was told at the beginning of my sentence, listen, they're going to smoke your ass. Like you're about to go away for life. These are adults. I'm in an adult correctional facility and they're telling me, cut yourself, hang yourself, get on medication, use your mental health as leverage so that your sentence can be reduced. And in my mind, I'm saying that is not something I'm willing to play with. No, I understand that I'm in a very bad situation, but even at a young age, I hated drugs. I didn't like what they did to my mind, but I wasn't capable of managing my emotions because next to my critical thinking or my thoughts, the next thing, strongest thing were my emotions. But throughout all of these achievements, I say this, everybody on the side was saying he's fortunate because he was born with that.
Wow.
Now think about what that does to a mind. to men who are in prison with limitations and not many options, and they're telling themselves the reason why this child growing up in prison is so successful is because he was born with a gift. If you're telling yourself that, then number one, what you're telling yourself is there's absolutely nothing you can do to achieve the same kind of things. And secondly, that you as a person is incapable of success. And so it allows you to watch everybody giving you the evidence that you need in order to take the necessary steps to become successful. And you're cutting yourself off short because you're telling yourself that you weren't born that way.
Wow. So, Miss Jackie, what do you think about that?
That's pretty intense. You know, that self-fulfilling prophecy is so intense as well. And trying to grow up at 15 with adults telling you those horrendous things. I mean, it's hard enough as 15 when you have a warm bed at home and food in your belly and all this other stuff, let alone when you are locked behind bars and all of your normal is just gone. What it says to me hugely is how much we need systems change, and we need people like both of you to be able to advocate and help people like Mia that have been trying to break the system and figure out how can we do this? How can we work together? Because what's been happening over the last how many years of America is not working. And Carlos, I'm glad you were able to rise above. And Keenan, I'm so glad you were out and you've done so many great things. But there's so many people still inside that have unlimited potential that may not even know what they are capable of. And Carlos, you hit it so correctly. You know, if they think it's just because you were somebody special, you were born with something, how are they going to tap into that? How would they even know to take the time to get that education or find those support people? So we need to keep saying that every single human is valuable for a reason, you know?
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. And to piggyback on that, like you said, you know, change is inevitable, you know what I'm saying? And when our environment change, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we can tend to change. We adapt to what's around us. So again, us being careful to who we let pour into us is very crucial. See, in environments like that, sometimes it's like you have nowhere else to turn because that's all you're surrounded by. But usually, like, sometimes you can find an outlet. Like you said, you decided to separate yourself, get around individuals that's going to the next level, that spoke well, you know, that were reaching out to different people, politicians, news stations, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of gave you a little leverage, you know, on your situation because it got you away from the block. It got you away from the homies. It got you away from the negativity. But it's in the same way as out here. That's why I took my hat to you, my brother, for, you know, coming home and staying focused, getting into college. You know, and the moves you're telling me that you're making, you know, even with the podcasting and, you know, starting to show, you know, like you said, you may be even shooting a movie soon, you know. So what I'm saying is a lot of people, like you said, like she just mentioned, a lot of people need to hear that story. They have to hear that success. A lot of people want to hear the bad, or this person sold drugs, or this person was getting money, this, that, and the third. But no, how about this person changed his life? This person is really on the right subject, right topic. You know what I mean?
No, and I'll tell you, like that kind of idea that I spoke about, you know, he's special. He was born with a gift. The problem with that also is it doesn't realize, I mean, people don't realize when they say that is how they perpetuate the very system that they're trying to attack. So they're able to leverage the fact that there's only a certain few who are worthy of being invested into, of releasing back into the community. And so we create our own cycle by giving power to the system that we're trying to fight and eliminate. So this is what I found, and this is crazy. And like, I might get a little choked up, so I'm just letting y'all know, because you have to understand that, like, I was a child trying to understand what the hell the world was about. I was trying to figure out what was expected of me by people who I depended on and I had very little choice to break away from. And so in my home environment, it was my parents. In the court system, it was my lawyer, it was the judge, and it was even the prosecutor, because I was trying to understand what the hell he was talking about from where I was sitting. And then in a correctional institution, I'm expecting staff, correctional officers, wardens, program managers, all this to provide me with some kind of understanding and guidance. And this is what's crazy. I found that they knew exactly what to do with me when I was wilding out, when I was being violent, when I had given up complete hope. But once I said, okay, I want to understand what it is to be responsible, to take accountability, to live with integrity, then they felt that I became the opposition. Now they had no idea what to do with me. And so this is the saddest thing that I found, is that they've developed their programs, they developed their directives, and they implement their practices based on this very low standard that doesn't allow them to give and provide the very things that are required for a human being. And so they're after bodies. They're not after your mind. They don't want to engage you intellectually. They don't care about how you develop morally at all. They just want to give you a rule, and you either abide by it and you're great, or you disobey it and you're horrible. And it doesn't matter the context or the circumstances. All they know is that for the most part, they've been operating under this idea that you're either a criminal or you're a complete responsible citizen. But when I'm watching correctional officers as I go into prison at the age of 15, and I'm immediately met by a man in a blue uniform who stands as a symbol to me of responsibility, tell me, oh, you like to beat women? They're going to have fun with you here. Immediately, my sense of being corrected was destroyed, because now the very people that in my mind I have to oppose were the very people who are entrusted with eliminating the very thing that got me into prison. And so I always say it, prison to me was not a punishment. I left one violent, senseless, and chaotic environment to go into another one. And contrary to what many people may think, early on, I found that it's not inmates that make prisons dangerous, it's the administration.
Wow.
I was called a homosexual by female correctional officers for refusing to engage in their sexual advances. I was called a snitch by male correctional officers for reporting on their unprofessional practices. And I was called a traitor by inmates for trying to do better and change my life.
Wow. That's deep. So let me just give little shout outs real fast. Hey, feel free. We know you out there, audience. We thank you for tuning in. Feel free to drop your comments in the chat. Brandy, we got Jasmine, we got Wanda, we got everybody here, just showing a lot of support, y'all. We appreciate y'all tuning in. I mean to cut them off or anything. But thank y'all so much. If y'all have any comments, please listen below. We'll be sure to get to them. Jackie, do you have any other questions or anything? We can stay rolling, please.
Hearing some of the things Carlos said and some of the things you've shared in your book too, Keenan, 15 years old. Okay. You guys are 15 years old. So that's a whole different level. But think about some of the people that expected this of you, some of the people that didn't expect this of you. Where were they? Where were those teachers, Carlos? You said you were thriving at school. Where were they when you started turning away, when they could see you backing up? Where is the community? The community has to step up. When the community works together, we have safer communities. We don't have the amount of crime. But then I want to pop in. And the very first time I started going into prisons to do some programming, one of my really good friends at the time was a police officer. And he said, Jackie, don't do it. Every single person in prison deserves to be locked up. You're a woman. You're not going to be safe.
Wow.
If that's the mentality, why would they even think that there's going to be anybody going in to do good stuff? And I went in and out of prisons for about 5 years doing programming, always the only woman locked in a room with multiple men, sometimes up to 20 men. Only 2 times did I ever feel just a little bit sort of uncomfortable. The amount of times as a grown woman and as a younger woman that I felt uncomfortable outside of prison with men, way off the charts. So when we think about that, it's like, what does that tell you? When you said that the inmates weren't the biggest problem, Carlos, it's real. You know, we've got to change the mentality. I don't care what kind of degree you have. I don't care what kind of badge you wear. Don't care what kind of program you're in. If we just think some humans are less than, they're going to start being less than, or they're going to be beaten down emotionally so much they can't rebuild like you both have been able to do. So how can people like me help to make sure that you guys don't think that we're all the system and we're all going to be bad? How can we help make sure that everybody's working together?
Wow. Yeah. Anything, Carlos?
Oh, I'll take the question. Yeah. So what I would say is, and this has been great in terms of the approach that I've taken in general to life. And so you don't buy into the narrative that is being told predominantly. You look for the narrative that actually stands out of what's always being told. And so that's how I was able to identify many of the things that were wrong with me and what was required in order for me to change. And I can give you a perfect example. After doing all the reading that I did, and after working with my mentor and my best friend, because we just became like very, very close and engaged in this process of rehabilitation that way surpassed the Department of Correction standard. So I was able to identify that my change process took place in 3 different phases. The first phase I discovered by having a conversation with another inmate, and he told me I have to be released. No, he said, I'm going to be released and I have to get a job, because if not, I'm coming back to prison. I'm going to commit another crime. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, now this is after reading some books on logic. So I trained myself to pay attention to roots and premises. So I said, what is at the root of this? I said, the Department of Corrections mission statement is to actually reduce recidivism. That's their main focus. So what is it that they're training us to think about when we're changing our lives? And I said, here it is. I said, this man thinks that if he doesn't get a job, the only alternative left to him is to go back to a life of crime. I told myself, absolutely not. I have many options available to me. It doesn't have to result in a life of crime or the violations of others. So I noticed that my change process at the very beginning consisted of staying away from negative things. That was my claim to success. I told myself, as long as I don't go over there, I'm good. I don't got to hang around the homies. I don't got to talk about, who's shooting who's robbing what. Let that stay over there. I'm good over here. The problem with that, I realized, is that it's a passive state. That's not going to produce the kind of character that's required to thrive in society. And so the second phase I realized I went through is this idea that, okay, now I'm going to engage in positive and productive behaviors, but I'm going to do so in order to avoid the negative. So now my reasons for being positive and productive are being incentivized by the very thing I need to get rid of. So I'm dragging this ball and chain around and I'm not even realizing it. So now the problem with that is that what I'm not doing becomes more important than what I am doing. And eventually what that starts to do is it chips away at your passion and your thrive for doing the very things that you do. And I always tell these men when they think like that, because I've been through it and I've identified it. Everyday average citizens don't wake up every day and go to work, provide for their children, and invest in their future because they're afraid of doing the very worst thing that they can possibly imagine. They do it for everything that has nothing to do with the opposite of that, because they love their children, because they understand how it contributes to their well-being, so on and so forth. But me and many inmates are being incentivized by this idea that I have to do good, because if not, I'm going to do bad. And so the third phase was moral and intellectual development. And that moved me from this idea of I'm not going to do this because I might go to prison to no, I'm not going to do this because I know it's wrong. I know how it affects me personally. I know how it limits my ability to appreciate other people and myself and my own self-worth. And so I'm going to go beyond that. And so this actually even pushed me even further to identifying another thing that the Department of Corrections does, and it doesn't realize how it perpetuates recidivism, because it takes freedom and it dangles it in front of you and it says the carrot or the stick, you pick. So I told the Department of Corrections, and this is interesting because my true change started to happen when I started to oppose them in their policies and their practices, which is crazy. But I told them, you can keep freedom. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to focus on getting out of here. I'm going to focus on developing the best thing in me that I could possibly develop and achieve as much integrity and success within my own character. And I'm going to make freedom significant rather than just trying to chase it. And once that happened, Keenan,
Mm-hmm.
every single opportunity started to get thrown at me
Wow.
because I didn't limit my citizenship to this idea that it had to start once I was free. I
Wow.
started to network from prison, and I started to reach beyond the walls that surrounded me. And I told the Department of Corrections, you guys have no idea what it takes to change a person, let alone a child. So I'm going to reach. So my point back to you, Jackie, is that you don't pay attention to what the common narrative is. You look for the one person who can give hope to everybody else in terms of success that other people don't think is available to them. And that's what I always stick by because I'm telling you, we like to talk about groups, we like to talk about consensus, but from my perspective, I've learned about the power of one. I can't tell you how many times I will come into a block full of 96 men. They're all playing cards, they're all gambling, they're talking about all the same thing. Every single day I sit down, I open a book, and I have my notebook and I write every single time. And this is only 2 hours of recreation a day. And eventually, people start looking, what is that weirdo doing over there? And they work their way over. And when they
Wow.
work their way over and ask me a question, I get to tell them about my ideas. And now they have the impression that things could be different.
That word you used, hope. Hope can change the whole world, can it?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do we get other people to realize they're so much better out there? They're so much better out there, whether they're locked behind bars, whether they're in those rough family situations you described, whether they're on the streets like you were so many times, Keenan. How do we harness that hope so they don't have to make the choices that are sometimes life or death for them being on the streets or being in some of those situations?
You're right. And hope is like something that has to be displayed. It has to be explained. It has to be shown. It has to be taught. Like, hey, even though whoever of your past brought you up didn't believe in you, there's still hope despite of. But a lot of times when you don't have individuals that have too much hope, you're going to be bound to be conformed of what's around you. But sometimes it's that inner desire of change or wanting to change is what flames up and says, okay, I'm going to do what's right in spite of, like you said, not just doing right because I want to go home, but I'm going to do right because when I go home, I'm going to do right. And I'm going to provide for my family. I'm going to do et cetera, et cetera. But that hope within is very powerful. And the brother Carlos had mentioned that, his power in, the unity of one or networking per se, coming together and building, like you said, these programmings, these coaching programs, as you just mentioned, some good points that can be projected on a screen, Carlos, that can be projected, in a program for people to complete. You know what I'm saying? The same way that they make us complete a rehabilitation program, might be violence prevention, maybe thinking for a change, maybe victim awareness. Some of these things, they're created by so-called professors or doctors that, they have the theology, but they have no experience. We know what we're going through every day being locked in a 7x7 cell. How can you walk 1,000 miles and you never step foot outside? You pacing inside the cell, walk 1,000 miles. 1,000 miles. And it's crazy to hear about. But this stuff does things to you psychologically. So again, we all deal with our emotions, our traumas that we go through. But just throwing a person behind bars without the proper training or rehabilitative type of programming, it's going to leave a person worse off. Because like you said, with the cards, the chess playing, and a lot of these things, making distractions. It's just to pass time, to pacify, until your time is over. But what did you learn? You
Nothing.
understand what I'm saying?
It's
And
horrible.
it's very profound. But again, viewers, if you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We're already 35 minutes in. I mean, usually I go about 30 minutes, but like I said, it's getting good.
I think
Jackie,
we could talk all night, man. It's good stuff. We're changing the world, guys.
Yeah. So, Jackie, if you can expound on some of the things you do, like far as with the re-entry, or if anybody, because I know there's plenty of people that's from the Detroit, Michigan area, and the surrounding areas of what your focus is on, and some of the things that you recently launched. Congratulations on. So if you can just share some of those things, that would be excellent as well.
Sure. Well, I'm straight across the street from Detroit area. I'm on the opposite side of the state, but we do some pretty cool stuff. We're really lucky to be able to do some jail reentry where we're hoping to prevent some of the participants in our program to ever get to the jail coming back or go into the prison system. And some of the things that you guys were talking about, it really hits home to think about not just giving them the carrots, not just saying, hey, you don't want to go back. And we're so lucky that our staff, it's all about relationship development. Our community is a small community, but it's very divisive. If you live over here, you're going to stay over there. You're not usually welcome over here. And our program is all about welcoming, taking people into colleges, having instructors come in that they would have never got to meet before. So we're doing some really cool stuff jail reentry wise, and I hope we can get back to the prison reentry work because it shouldn't be either or. And unfortunately, right now it's so much either or. So hoping to get more. There's so much work to do. There are so many people that they don't want to invest the time in. When I say people, I'm talking about the people that are referring people and the people that are court ordering people. They don't necessarily want to put the time in because they said there's all these jobs out there. Wow. And if they really wanted to change, they do it. Why go through a program? Well, if you have never had that support, if you've never been walked into a place that said, not only are you welcome, we want you here, why would you change? Why would you know that you deserve to change, or you can have that hope? So that's some of the stuff we're working on the west side of Michigan.
Nice. So if anybody wanted to contact you as far as administrative work, to probably implement it, in Pennsylvania. Here it is, Carlos, you're up in Massachusetts, correct?
Connecticut.
I'm sorry. Connecticut. If they wanted to contact you, to implement those type of services, or even perhaps have you come out and explain these type of services to some of the administration, that they may implement, but how can they do so?
Well,
was the question for Jackie, but then also for Carlos. Okay, I'll let Jackie go.
For me, I'm super simple. You can find our agency on Facebook. It's Mediation and Restorative Services, and I can help connect you to a lot of people in Michigan through a bunch of different reentry services. On LinkedIn, you can find me there. I'm connected with both Carlos and Keenan there, so you can find me through there if you just have some direct questions. But agency-wise, we're one of many that just want to do better. We want to make sure that we can offer those services. My office specifically also does a lot with youth, so we work with kids that are either already involved in the court system or they're starting to have community or school behavior issues, so that we can hopefully prevent them from even stopping that cycle and never getting to even the jail spot. So I might be one of the only people that want to work myself out of a job. So we want everybody to be safe and healthy and happy. So reach out to us if you want to volunteer or speak to us. We would love to share with our participants more of this hope and just an idea that other people care about them.
Wow, thank you. And Carlos, if people wanted to invite you to speak on a podcast or even come, motivational speaking, I know you're going to have a book coming out, movie, documentary. You got a lot of stuff going on, bro, but how can they reach you as well?
So they can reach me on Facebook, Carlos Rebolo, on LinkedIn, Carlos Rebolo, and my email is reboloc900@gmail.com. I'll throw my phone number up there, but people told me that's not such a good idea.
Yeah, that's
such getting acclimated to the modern world, so I'm not gonna throw that out.
Hey, it's crazy because it took me time to understand too that there's some things that, like you say, Carlos, there's some things like that we may think it's okay because we just think like, look, we try to connect, we try to network, we try to get this go. But
Oh my
on
God.
the flip side, out here in the world, it's like there's some things that they're just not okay to do.
No, they're not.
You know what
So
I'm
so
saying?
now check this out. I'm somebody, right, who
Yeah.
like I was very careful, and the people that I brought close to me in prison,
Yeah.
because I knew that if somebody really wanted help, they
Yeah.
knew they could come to me because I'm a very approachable person.
Yeah.
But I didn't want people that weren't about what I was about coming
Yeah.
near me unless it was about change. And this impression was great because I knew that if they came to me, no matter how wild they were, with
Oh, wow.
me, we were going to talk about stuff that was positive.
Wow.
But out here, I'm just looking for people all the time to say hello to.
That's it.
Say hello to everybody, right? But
It's
I go to the
insane.
mall. I go to the mall and I see this child, and it's this child, and his mother, I think, is maybe 10 feet away from him, and the child is just happy. So
Yeah.
I'm going up to the child and I'm like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And he just like,
Yeah.
so he just like, and then he gets away from me, and then his mother looks at him, and as I'm going down the escalator, I look back and she's like, "Good job, baby. Good job." And
Wow.
but I'm a
Yeah,
stranger. I
see,
just want to say
yeah.
hello, but she's trying to protect the
And,
child.
and
But
the crazy thing,
it speaks to what you were just saying, that it's just
it's some things just like you said, we just happy. We happy to be out. We like,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? And then another little thing is like, for instance, like technology, right? With the phones. We weren't around when these came out. There were like flip phones. They weren't even little Nextels, right? So I didn't know that, okay, even if it was somebody, that you knew in the past, you can't just pick up your phone and video call them. I thought it was okay. Like, you just video call, hey, what's up? They're like, no, you can't just video call. I'm thinking
Offended.
like that.
Big offense.
You know what I'm saying? People like, oh, no, you can't. I'm thinking like, what's the same? It's the same thing like a telephone call. But then I didn't know people were real self-conscious, how they look on the screen, how they look for Facebook, how they look for Instagram. It's like, whoa, like I didn't know that. So that was something I had to learn. Like, oh, okay, cool. So it was just different things, the way society changes, a lot. You know what I mean?
And the limitations that the Department of Correction places on people under the idea that whatever they get their hands on, they'll just turn it, they'll just corrupt it. It's just silly. It's senseless. I mean, there are prisons that give the inmates phones, and they put limitations on how many numbers they can have, but they can still have cell phones. And like back to this networking and no excuses, or putting it back into what you just said.
Yeah.
There's so many like opportunities, even in prison, when it comes to familiarizing yourself at least a little bit with technology so that you can get some understanding of what it consists of. So on my tablet, electronic tablet was handed to us.
Yeah.
Copy and paste. They gave me an email app. Oh my God. I went crazy with that. So now, listen, I learned how to copy and paste. And so in order for me to contact Jackie has to create a Securus account in order for me to get in contact with her and send her an email.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody can stop me from sending you an email and saying you copy and paste it and send it to Jackie, because I need Jackie to know that I need to network her. And so there's nothing wrong with that at all, because I'm sending the email to you to get to Jackie, and now Jackie and I are communicating as if, and you can't even imagine how many legislatures, how many organizations, how many campaigns I got in contact with just by doing that. So it just, this idea that you have to limit men and women because they're going to corrupt, it's not true. It's just not true. If you open up these opportunities, if you actually allow men and women to get in contact with people who might help them, granted, limited, it might be limited, but nonetheless, if you stop like out of this idea that everything is going to get corrupted if they touch it, you're not going to get anywhere. But nonetheless, there's still these opportunities, even with tablets, that men and women in prison can actually get acquainted with how the world operates out here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, like I said, y'all, we're 45 minutes in. Like I said, we can go all night, we can go all day, but if you guys want to keep going, it's okay. I'm cool with it. Like I said, any of the viewers that's looking right now, if you guys have any questions or concerns, we're speaking about, no excuses, the power of networking, even after spending time in prison. Then we have Miss Jackie here speaking about the reentry after prison, so it's very powerful. And I believe, even though this is the first with you guys on here, I believe it won't be the last. So, like I said, if we want to wrap this thing up, again, like I said, mentioning again, the Unspoken Truth and Life Story, Keenan Hudson. This is out, it's out there. Great book. Again, you can go to KeenanHudson.com, located on Amazon as well. Again, like these are some powerful people here that are speaking as well. I believe that both of them are going to be coming out with a book as well. So, so we're just excited though, but I really appreciate you, Carlos, and Ms. Jackie. I really appreciate the both of you for coming on here and even, taking the time to share with everybody and enlighten them with the different things and insights that we talked about tonight. Like I say, it's more, again, networking, sharing, spreading, dropping the knowledge. There's some things, that I've learned tonight, and again, I know a lot of other people that have been listening have learned a lot as well. So everybody just be sure to like, share, subscribe. Again, this is on different platforms from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Again, we can share this, and engage in more conversations. If anybody has any type of other conversations or topics that you would like to hear people speak on, feel free to drop them in the chat or send us an inbox, and we'll be sure to jump on here. Again, this is what the platforms and streaming platforms are all about. We spread the word, different streaming, and, you never know. I may connect you, again, networking. You may know somebody that's good with books. This person may know somebody that's good with branding. This person knows reentry very well. So, again, I don't mean to, so any last comments, thoughts, concerns, Jackie, and Carlos?
I'll go quick because I know Carlos needs to take us out of here because he's got some great thoughts. Talk about networking, guys. We are three different humans that just met each other a few months ago. We're all sitting in different states, but look at us. It's like we've done this for years together. I'm also excited to keep working with you guys in lots more capacities, hoping to see both of you in the real life before too long. But I hope this gives other people hope that you can meet new people by networking. And some of the people are going to be those ones that are out to get you. That's why I don't put my last name on things like this, but most of them are going to be great humans. And the more we connect with great humans, the better the world's going to be. So thank you both for letting me join you tonight.
Yes, indeed.
So I just want to throw this out there, Keenan. We're doing this every Monday night.
Woo! Hey man, I mean, I'm definitely for it. I mean, as long as for if I don't have any other Zoom calls or any meetings or anything to that extent, I'm all for it. I really would like I said, I really wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind doing it. There goes Sandra. She said, "Hello, all. Tapping in kind of late. I'll have to play it back when it's available. Have a good night, all." Yeah, thank you so much. She's been a good supporter. Great. We appreciate it. But yeah, like I said, we can do it. Even if we got to add on more guests, I believe we can add up to like about 6, and we could just have a full blown, convo and just go. Because there's a lot we can learn from, a lot that we can engage in. Again, it's all about networking and building. Everything is not about taking from people. A lot of people just think, oh, this person's trying to network with me to take away, and some people don't want to give you the time. Some people charge consultations. They charge you $10,000 for a Zoom call and things like we trying to build, we trying to, hey, how do we get to the next level? You know what I'm saying? Even if you got to give me a little increment, and I'll just build those increments, over other different types of networks. Just take the time out to share. Just like we're doing now, we're just sharing, we're just spreading, hey, this is what we should consider about this and that. But again, that's again, we have to be, instead of being selfish, we have to be selfless. It can't be just about me. I just want to make it on top. No, we got to be willing to spread the love.
And I'll give you a perfect example. So my mentor, my friend, and I used to call this radio station. It's a conservative radio station, and the host used to get shit thrown on him for having us up there. And he is like a man that respects his mind. He respects his convictions. And what he was getting from us was, I'm gonna stick with these guys. And so today I'm so proud to say that, the opportunity and the platform that he gave us to have a voice while we were in prison, complaining about, the Department of Corrections, actually, benefited, and like big kudos to his staying, his position and saying, no, like these guys are real. I believed in them. And anybody deserves a voice, especially when we think that government has it right. And those men in there, it doesn't matter what they say, they're wrong. So kudos to him. But I also want to mention that, and you can close after this. It's up to you. You can take it, Jackie. Jackie's been great. Thank you so much.
It's been a whole hour, but it's cool. Yeah.
Well, I found in my personal life the most powerful thing you can ever do in terms of networking: introduce yourself and just ask a question. I'm Carlos. I'm this, I'm that. What is your name? What do you do for a living? Just start a conversation. And from there, you just never know where that might take you. But people are afraid to asking questions. Yeah. I ended up throwing my life away. I ended up hurting an innocent person, all because I told myself asking questions is the wrong thing to do. Ask questions, man. That'll open up a whole world to you.
Yeah. No doubt, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and shut it down here, y'all. It's been 51 minutes, 52 minutes to be exact. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the show. We didn't come up with the name of the podcast yet, but we're going to get it going, these next couple of weeks. But like the brother Carlos said, we could probably do this thing every Monday night. But Miss Jackie, she's definitely going to be on here too. She's a great supporter. She supports every single person. I don't know how she does it, but she does it. She buys books. She does it all. Like I say, Jackie, again, our support is to you as well. If you need us for anything, you call on us. We're there. And again, so y'all have a good night. I thank y'all all for tuning in. Again, like I said, if y'all have any questions, anything of any concerns, y'all go ahead and inbox us and we'll get back and, we'll elaborate more. All right. Good night, y'all. Go ahead, drop the good night. Y'all can drop the good nights in there. Sandra already dropped her good night. They dropped the good nights. Anybody else? It's all right. Y'all got to. I'm talking to my viewers. Y'all don't have to be scared to comment. It's okay. We're harmless. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, if this person doesn't comment, I don't want to comment. No, I don't want to do this because this person's not on. Look, ain't no filters here. We out here enjoying. Jasmine, thank you. Good night, Jasmine. Great supporter as well. Brandy, number one. H Boom Cool. I'm talking about she been there, got a book coming out soon, coaching program, entrepreneur. She do so many things. Brandy, you do so many things. You need to come on here and tell everybody what you do. All right. So, but again, everybody, all right, y'all have a good night. I'll see y'all later on. All right. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate y'all. All right. So, see y'all later. All right. All right. Talk to you, Chris. All right. All right, y'all. Yes, I'm just go ahead and finish this, finalize. Like I said, y'all already know. So I wanted to reiterate real quick. Remember the book signing. The book signing is going to be on the 18th, March 18th, Saturday. So again, it's getting pretty packed. A lot of people are saying they're going to be attending and stuff like that. There's no cap, but it is a lot of people that's going to be attending. So again, if y'all want to, put your last. If you want to know where the book signing is going to be, again, it's going to be a private location. So again, the Unspoken Truth of Life story. Yes, there will be books sold at the book signing. So if you want to purchase the book there, it's okay. If you don't, it's all right as well. Like I said, you can purchase it, at my website, KeenanHudson.com. You also go to Amazon. Like I say, my website, is going to offer the book or the autographed copy as well. So again, please come out, support. It's going to be light refreshments served as well. But I thank y'all all for supporting us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign out. I thank y'all again for the support. All right. So it's Keenan Hudson, and y'all go ahead and be blessed and have a great night. All right. Thank you.